Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon live on Fox Local, Fox13News.com, Fox35Orlando.com, and also on YouTube. We appreciate you joining us as we wrap up the work week here on this Friday. A lot going on that we want to let you know about coming up later in our show. We're going to talk about the city of Orlando preparing for site visits to the Pulse nightclub. They're going to let in family members of the victims killed and also survivors into that nightclub to see the scene and potentially help in their healing process. So the city has put out more information about how that is going to work. We will hear from city officials coming up in a little bit. Questions persist over a Duval County inmate who died after a, quote, incident at the jail. The inmate who was injured was in the hospital, we know, for several days before passing away yesterday. We will speak with a reporter in Jacksonville about that situation, what we know, what we don't know, the answers that they are still trying to get. But we begin today with a big story out of South Florida, where 3 people were killed in a small plane crash in Boca Raton. This was a plane that took off this morning from the airport in Boca Raton, headed for Tallahassee, but it was about 20 minutes into its flight that officials say the plane crashed, killing all 3 people on board. Also, a man driving on the ground, on the road where this crash happened, ended up crashing into a tree because of the crash. He was injured as well. Now, in a news conference this afternoon, just about a couple of hours ago now, officials said the plane may have had some mechanical issues.
At approximately 10:12 a.m., our fire dispatch and police dispatch got a call for a plane in trouble. Our units responded to the Boca Raton Airport per our policies. The aircraft had apparently some mechanical issues and went down here on Military Trail. It went down. Also, there was a car on the ground. We will at this time confirm there were 3 fatalities in the aircraft, and there was 1 injury on the ground, non-life threatening. At this time, Military Trail is closed between Butts Road and Northwest 19th Street, and also the I-95 interchange in both directions is closed down. The lead agency on this call is going to be the National Transportation Safety Board. They are en route to the call right now. This is all the information that we have now. We wanted to give you a small briefing of what we know. These are the facts that we know at this time. It's obviously an active investigation. As we get more information, either the National Transportation Safety Board or the FAA will give a further update in the coming hours.
One more time, sir, on the people that were on board.
I'm sorry?
There were 3 people on board again. Tell me, how many on the plane and how many on the ground?
3 on the plane, 3 souls on board, and we can confirm those were all fatalities. 1 gentleman on the ground he hit a tree because of all the debris and the fire. It's non-life-threatening injuries on him. We treated him and sent him to the hospital.
Did the plane strike a car?
Hold on.
Did the plane strike a car, and was the person in the car killed?
No, non-life-threatening injuries on the gentleman in the car.
He was in the car?
Yes, sir.
Where is he now?
No, it was from the fireball on the ground. He drove through apparently the fireball, and this is unconfirmed.
On behalf of the city, we express our heartbreak at this tragic loss of life. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and all affected of the deceased. We could be grateful in tragic moments like this for the swift action of our Boca Raton Fire Rescue Department and our Boca Raton Police Department, who work to minimize the harm and respond to the immediate concern from the fire. And we are grateful for their continued work and partnership with other agencies who will be handling the lead in the investigation, as Chief LaSalle mentioned, the NTSB. In times of tragedy, I'm grateful for the spirit and care that is so strong in our community so we can help all affected get through this as quickly as possible. And grateful again for our first responders and their diligent service always.
So it's still a lot of questions about what exactly happened. They did not provide a whole lot of details at that time. The investigating officials were not on the scene yet as well when it comes to the NTSB and FAA. We do expect updates on this. They said potentially another news conference in the next a few hours, so potentially something this afternoon. We're keeping our eyes peeled out for that as we continue to monitor this situation. Now, one other thing, Fox 35's Amy Kaufeld spoke this afternoon with a woman who saw the plane crash from her office window there in Boca Raton. She described seeing the crash and also how quickly first responders arrived at the scene.
So the Boca Executive Airport is off to my left, or I'm sorry, to my right. And we have planes going in and out of there all the time. We watch them land, we watch them take off, and we hear sometimes they feel like they're coming close to our building. My colleague had seen it fly around twice, and I hadn't seen that. But the third time, my colleague and I that are by these windows all of a sudden feel our building shake, and the plane went right over our head. And we both went, oh my gosh, that was really, really close, like closer than we were used to. It felt like it just like barely got over our building. So we looked over to my right hand side, and where we would normally see the plane descend and go to the runway, we watched it start to turn again, and it was going left. And instantly, as I was watching it loop back around, you would think the plane would go back up and go up again, but I started watching it descend more, and it looked like it was going to loop back around our building. So instantly when I saw it turn left and start to descend, I knew that there was something wrong because it shouldn't have done that. So we instantly were standing at our building looking out the window, and I was holding my breath thinking, is this going to hit our building? Because it already came so close the first time. And I was just like waiting, like trying to look like, where is this plane? Where is this plane? And next thing we know, right in front of us, it landed on the road and it burst into a ball of flames and just skidded. A car went up in flames, but the person in it, we're pretty sure, got out of it. And we just watched the whole thing happen. Our whole entire building shook. The heat came into our building. We could feel the heat, and everything. It just missed the overpass bridge. So it like had just missed it. So that could have been really, really bad.
Danielle, was it from watching it, did it look like the pilot was maybe trying to land on the road?
Yeah, once, and that's when it hit. I knew he was just trying to find a way to land, because I knew when I saw it turn left and start descending rather than going back up. I knew it was having some type of problem, especially because of how close it was to our building when it went right over our head. So I think that's what it was ultimately trying to do, was trying to get a place to land. And why it didn't land at the Boca Airport or the grass area, that's what we've been trying to figure out in our heads. But it clearly tried to do another loop around, but it just didn't make it.
And just talking to you right now, I just saw that plane fly right behind you. I mean,
Yes,
that's
that's
like,
what we see all day long.
wow. So you definitely notice if something
Yes.
looks out of the ordinary.
Yes, we've been in this building. Well, I've been working for this company and in this building for over 10 years. So we're used to this plane traffic all the time. And there's been plenty of times we felt like a plane was really loud or shook it or landed. But yeah, that was like the first time we were like, wait a second, this is like really, really bad.
I imagine seeing something like that. I mean, you were showing me earlier, and if you don't mind, Danielle, if you kind of pull up the camera like you did earlier and show me like where exactly it is, it's like right
Yes.
over your shoulder.
So it was right here. It's hit. Well, I'm trying to make sure. It hit over here, and then it slid this way all the way to that overpass bridge, and that's where it actually hit. And then that's the overpass bridge it just missed. And then over here on the other side of that, you can't see it, and we can't either. But oh, here comes another plane. But that is where the Boca Airport is, the Boca Executive Airport.
Just incredible. And it looks like there might be still some emergency vehicles down there, but it looks
Yes.
like they got it actually cleaned up fairly quickly considering.
Yeah, there's still some emergency vehicles. There's a lot of debris from it hitting the middle of the road in the median. But there's still some emergency vehicles. Like we can't exit our garage. That's right here.
I can't imagine just how traumatizing it is to witness something like that. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, we were very much saying we were like traumatized. It was very much us like being shooken up. It's still a little bit unbelievable.
And I think too, if I work in a building where I'm constantly seeing planes going by, I can't imagine how you're feeling just even just seeing those planes flying behind you right now.
Yeah. Well, we've always like it's always been something in the back of our mind where we've had planes go by and like, oh, that one fell close, or it just, oh, a plane might hit our building. Like just something that crosses our mind, nothing we've taken seriously. But this was like the first time where it legitimately almost happened, twice, because it had circled. Um, it had circled. That third time it came around was the fatality one, but as I mentioned, my colleague had seen it and noticed it the first two times, but it was the third time when myself and my other colleague had noticed it because it literally came like right over our head. And that's when, like within 30 seconds of that happening, that's when it came around and crashed.
Daniel, how quickly from the time that the plane hit the ground to emergency vehicles? I mean, how quickly?
Very quick, really, really quick, because we were still standing there completely in shock. And the Glades Road right here, that where the overpass goes over where it crashed, like that was all filled with cars. Cops were instantly there. They shut that down. There was minutes, probably less than 5 minutes. Like I was actually, well, I was still processing what happened, but I was actually very shocked how quickly they got there. I even said out loud to everybody standing around me, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they got here so fast." Like it was pretty impressive how many people in emergency vehicles were there on site after it happened.
Scary to hear that witness describe what they saw, what they even felt as that plane went down in Boca Raton. Again, still a lot of questions about what exactly happened. Hoping to get some more answers later today. So we will continue to monitor that situation in South Florida. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is time now for our Tampa Connection, and we go to Fox 13 news anchor Linda Hurtado. And Linda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Unfortunately, we have to start our roundup with some sad news. A Sarasota mother who was critically injured in a hit and run that killed her two children has passed away. 29-year-old Taylor Bennett and her two sons, 2-year-old Rio and 5-month-old Keelan. They were hit by a Lexus vehicle on February 10th. The children died in the crash while their mom was rushed to the hospital with critical injuries, and we have just learned that Taylor Bennett, from the family actually, that she died shortly before 5 this morning. What a shame. As for that investigation, police arrested 72-year-old June Fenton in early March. It will be up to the state attorney's office now whether to upgrade those charges against her. Now, here's a story that just made me shake my head. An assistant principal in Polk County is now facing some criminal charges for inappropriate behavior with one of her students, a 13-year-old, in fact. So the sheriff's office tells us that the investigation involves 53-year-old Dr. Kiva Lark, and she was the principal, or when the principal of Lake Marion Creek Middle School in Poinciana contacted detectives. And here was the story. Sheriff Grady Judd says a 13-year-old student was sent to Lark's office on April 4th for throwing a paper ball across a classroom. Once inside the office, the sheriff says Lark told this teenager to rub her bare feet like he loved her, and it got worse from there.
She didn't think he was massaging him the right way, so she massaged his arms and his shoulders, and then made the statement like, this will help teach you foreplay for when you have a girlfriend. That's how evil this conduct was. So she's in jail. She had made statements to him in the past to include calling him sexy chocolate. And that just added to our probable cause that she had a interest in him.
All right, the Polk County Public School System released a statement. I'm going to read some of it. This is abhorrent behavior for anyone who works among students, especially an administrator. This person no longer has any business being around children, end quote. So Lark faces charges now of lewd and lascivious conduct and lewd offenses against a student by an authority figure. You got to think that this was an administrator that knew that that was probably inappropriate behavior, but we'll see what happens from here on out.
Certainly a case to watch, Linda.
Yeah. All right. So we've been talking a lot, Garrett, about recovery from Helene and Milton because our folks over here in the Tampa Bay area certainly got a 1-2 punch, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Thunderbird Beach Resort, pretty well known, kind of an iconic hotel in our area.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, so it is going to be torn down, but it's not all bad news, so let me explain. It's been on Treasure Island for about 6 to 8 years, and now the owners say they are going to tear it down, but they're also going to rebuild it. That's because more than 80% of the resort suffered substantial damage from hurricanes Helene and Milton. Fox 13 spoke with Laura Coleman, who has vacationed at Thunderbird for decades. Not only did she get married there, but she and her husband even have matching Thunderbird tattoos. Take a listen.
It was hard, especially being landlocked here in Kansas City and having such a part of our heart there in the Treasure Island, Tampa area, really all over. Felt pretty helpless, and it was also sad because you see a lot of those memories and future memories changing.
So plans have been submitted to the city, and it shows that they are going to keep that right there that you're seeing, the iconic neon sign with the Thunderbird that we all recognize. So those plans still need approval, and we'll keep you updated on how things go. Now, you may not think about, well, I guess you would, because the Rays, everybody knows that image of the Trop right after the hurricanes, that the roof was blown off. But our local soccer team also feeling the effects of these hurricanes, but an exciting homecoming is set for this weekend as our Tampa Bay Rowdies, the soccer team, return to Al Lang Stadium for the first time since last year's hurricanes caused significant damage there. Hurricane Helene brought more than 4 feet of water through the stadium last September. It damaged the locker rooms, the offices, the turf, the entire electrical system. So the Rowdies spent the first 2 months of last season away from their home stadium. Now, after starting this season with 4 games on the road, they look forward to being home. Here's what they had to say.
It's like a mental and physical battle. Mentally you get exhausted from traveling and playing away games, and maybe changes your approach to the game a little bit. So just kind of like that relief from us returning back home and being able to just have your home routine, get a little more rest physically, and mentally just know that you're playing in front of your home fans is going to be a big help.
There's no place like home, right? Isn't that what Dorothy said? So the Rowdies will face London United FC on Saturday night at 7:30. However, they'll be playing under different leadership. It was just announced this morning that they dismissed their head coach, Robbie Nelson, they didn't say why. Assistant coach Steve Coleman will serve as the interim head coach, so a lot of changes going on there. But I'm really happy to see our businesses starting, to get back to normal after all this time since the hurricanes hit.
It's a great sign, because we know they really have been through so much, and it's been such a long road to get to this point. So yeah, nice to see several of them kind of be able to take those next steps and get back to normal.
Yes, whatever normal is now, right?
Right, that's a
great
good point.
Garrett.
All right, Linda, thank you. You too. That is our Tampa connection. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. A 31-year-old father was in the hospital this week after an incident in the Duval County Jail. We have since learned from his family's attorney in multiple reports that man, Charles Faggart, has died. He was on a ventilator, had been brain dead since Monday, and was pronounced dead yesterday. Meanwhile, very few details about that incident have been released. We spoke earlier with Nicole Manna, who is the senior investigative reporter with the Jacksonville Tributary, to find out what we are learning about what happened.
Yeah, so the initial information came out Tuesday evening. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office called a press conference to let us know that they had essentially suspended 9 of their jail staff, 8 of which were correctional officers. The 9th person was a sergeant. They let us know that it was over an incident having to do with an inmate, and that inmate had been hospitalized in critical condition, and that this incident occurred Monday morning. And that was essentially all of the information he released on Tuesday.
And so that word incident is still really all we know about what exactly happened inside the jail?
Correct. From the sheriff's office, all he has said is that there was an incident. He described it as a bad incident. We don't know anything else from JSO directly. From what we've heard from Charles's family is that there potentially was some sort of beating that occurred.
And so talk to us about some of your additional reporting. You're able to learn more about this man and have obviously been in contact with his family.
I personally have not been in contact with his family directly. I have been in contact with his attorney. She was the one who officially, released his name, officially released his condition. The family attorney is also the one who confirmed yesterday that he had passed away. Again, the sheriff's office is not releasing any information. So even on Tuesday, we did not know the name of the victim at that point. So the tributary, just using classic investigative journalism techniques, were able to kind of go into the court record and go through recent arrests and kind of nail down who the victim was. From there, we were able to get a court document that essentially was asking for a reduction of his bond, which is a pretty common document you see after arrests. But this one in particular said that it was made at the request of Sheriff T.K. Waters, that it was an inmate by the name of Charles Faggart who was in the hospital and his family was requesting to see him. So that's how we were able to determine who this was about. Right now, the sheriff's office has not released the identity of any of the correctional officers who were involved in this. So we're still trying to figure out who they are and to learn more information about them and what actually happened.
And from what it sounds like, too, from your reporting, that the attorney representing the family of Mr. Faggart says they are also kind of being kept in the dark right now, too.
Yes, absolutely. We know literally as much as they know. His family's attorney said that they have not received any information from JSO, not even a phone call.
And so what has the response from the community been to this?
The community, from what we've seen and understand, is incredibly outraged, really upset that yet again we have another incident in the Duval County Jail where we're not getting any information. There's actually going to be a rally held at 1 p.m. Sunday about this and about just kind of overall what's been happening in the Duval County Jail. For instance, we have reported in the last few years about medical neglect there. So that I know is going to be a topic on Sunday. And people just really want answers and they want accountability.
And what's next in this investigation? Any indication that there will be more information released either, anytime soon?
No. So JSO has actually made the step to call the FBI and ask them to come in and investigate the incident, which more than likely means it's going to be even harder for us to get information. We're not going to have a state agency, from what I understand, looking at this and releasing a report like we've seen in the past. So I'm not sure exactly what information we're going to be getting beyond what little we have gotten. I think we can all stand to believe that there's going to be a civil lawsuit that will come out of this. So we'll just have to see what comes out in discovery at that point.
What do we know, if anything, about these 9 correctional officers who have been stripped of their powers and what their status is?
That's literally all we know, that they have been stripped of their powers. So I'm assuming that means they're not at work, not in the jail. We don't know anything beyond that.
Is this common for it to be this difficult to get answers from situations like this from this agency, or is this a unique in how tight-lipped they're being about this?
I would say it's not exactly unique. I think the sheriff's office is usually pretty tight-lipped. They really like to say that they're being transparent. They're even saying right now that they're being transparent, but that they just can't release information. We have seen in other cases where, the community is outraged about somebody being beat up during an arrest, where we have gotten body cam footage really quickly and we have gotten the names of officers involved really quickly. Overall, I think it's not uncommon for the sheriff's office to not release information, but it is interesting to see when you look at the overall cases when we do get information versus when we don't get information. And I think that also is contributing to a lot of the anger in the community. Is I'm seeing a lot of people say, if this was anybody else, if this wasn't a correctional officer, if this wasn't a JSO employee, we would know their name by now.
So where do things go from here? What should we keep watching for?
Where things go from here is really up to the FBI. From what we hear, it's in their hands now. So just waiting to see if and what information they release. And then, of course, like any follow-up civil lawsuit, I believe the statute of limitations there is 2 years. So I believe the family would have up to 2 years to file a lawsuit. So I'm not sure exactly when that will come down. Once a lawsuit is filed, that's probably when we're going to start to receive more information just through the discovery process.
Give you a live look. This is in New York City. The NTSB expected to give an update on the helicopter crash on the Hudson River. That is scheduled to start around 2:30, so we expect it to be any minute now. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we are monitoring this, so keep it right here on Fox Local and YouTube, and we'll try to bring you those updates as they come in. Welcome back into Florida Live. Still standing by for the start of that NTSB news conference, expected any minute now to give an update on the helicopter crash on the Hudson River in New York City. This is video from last night as the fuselage was pulled from the water. We know 6 people were killed. This sightseeing helicopter that crashed 18 minutes after taking off. Witnesses described seeing a propeller explode, rotor blade flying into the water as the helicopter went down. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Captain Ron Alvarado. He is a pilot. He is also the former commander of the Marine One helicopter that carries the president. So we talked to him to break down what we know about this and also what to know if you or someone you know is seeking out a sightseeing helicopter tour, because we know those specifically are popular in our area. Here's our conversation with Captain Alvarado earlier today on Fox 35 News Plus.
Well, yesterday I was viewing the videos that were put on the internet and also many news stations, and my first reaction was to suspect it was mast bumping. Mast bumping is an event where a pilot, a helicopter pilot, will overreact or overcontrol the cyclic, which is a joystick. So an abrupt forward motion of the joystick will cause the mast to come in contact with the rotor hub, essentially snapping the rotor system mast, which is holding the rotor system together. But after looking at videos this morning, there was another new video that came out. It appears the transmission of the helicopter was still attached to the rotor system. So that leads to, again, don't want to speculate, but it could be some type of mechanical failure when the rotor system departs flight from the fuselage with the transmission intact. Either way, just a heartbreaking event.
That is absolutely true. And this happened just 18 minutes after it took off. So is that something that could happen, that wouldn't take long to kind of manifest itself?
Yes, absolutely. So these type of events that occur, if it's maintenance related, and I've said it before many times on many interviews on TV, there's a series of events that occur that lead up to the actual mishap or the accident. So the NTSB investigators, FAA, they'll be looking at maintenance logs. They'll be looking at the pilot record and also weather. I don't think weather was an issue, but this seems to be a mechanical issue. So these maintenance records will be dissected for sure.
Is that the sort of issue that regular maintenance and checks on aircraft like this are supposed to catch or would be able to recognize and notice?
Absolutely. So the maintenance department that looks after these helicopters and the health of the helicopter, they have checklists. They have a series of inspections that they need to follow per FAR regulations, Federal Aviation regulations. So if they're following the rules of maintaining this aircraft properly, events like this shouldn't occur. But again, I don't want to speculate, but based upon what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's mast bumping, where that more than likely is pilot error. This seems to be a maintenance type of issue, especially again when the fuselage is departed from the transmission and the rotor system, and the tail boom was cut in half by the rotor blades as they departed the aircraft.
What does that maintenance look like? You talked about federal regulations for it. What does that look like, and what all does that entail?
Well, there's hourly inspections. So it could be a 100-hour inspection, 50-hour inspection. It depends upon the systems of the aircraft and also the cycle. Some parts need to be swapped out every so often. How engines need to be overhauled, of course. It could be 100,000 hours, but it depends upon the life of the airframe, life of the engine, life of the aircraft. I understand this is a Bell 206 helicopter, a little bit older, but so it depends upon the aircraft, the inspection cycles and the inspection checklists that should be carried out by properly trained maintenance personnel.
Our understanding, as the reporting has shown, is that this was a tourist helicopter, a sightseeing helicopter going on a tour of the area. Here in Orlando, those sightseeing helicopter tours are pretty common. We have a number of companies and businesses that do those here. What should people who do these keep in mind? Are there questions they should be asking when they show up about maintenance or anything like that, or anything that they should be watching out for?
Sure, absolutely. They should be very curious. So if, let's say I'm flying from California to Florida and I'm bringing my family, I want to do a helicopter tour, I'm going to investigate, or at least find out what's going on with the helicopter company. What's its track record? How long have they been in operation? Have there been any mishaps? Go online and check the blogs, social media about the helicopter or helicopter companies. Some pilots tend to be very aggressive. So I've got friends who fly for Hawaiian helicopters, and they're usually very older, but some of the younger pilots, from what I've heard, they tend to be a little aggressive, a little show-offish, if you will. I've read stories of passengers being scared because of abrupt movements of the pilot and the control inputs. So if I were a tourist or someone interested in renting or engaging in some of these tour companies, do your research. Find out what is going on with the company before you arrive. And when you do arrive, ask questions before you board the helicopter. Ask questions. And one thing that's kept me alive for 40 plus years of flying is if something doesn't look right, feel right, or sound right, more than likely it's not right. So that's, as a parent or as an authority, you got to stop and say, all right, time out. Let's see what's going on. I don't feel good about this. Let's ask some questions, talk to the pilot, talk to the chief pilot of the tour company. That should be the mindset of anybody getting on board one of these helicopters.
Let's go ahead and get you to this news conference. Someone just walked up here, and it looks as if this news conference is about to get started. This is about the deadly helicopter crash on the Hudson River in New York City. So let's go ahead and listen in here.
We'll ask you guys to separate those two components out with regards to questions. I think Kim is providing you right now the names of the individuals and confirmation for those of you that don't have that. So we'll give it a minute, and the chairwoman of the NTSB will come in, and then we'll take it from there afterwards, okay?
Okay, so it sounds like things are not getting started just yet, so we're going to go ahead and take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live. The chair of the NTSB just walked up beginning to speak, so let's go ahead and listen in.
The Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant events in all other modes of transportation. As you know, we're here to investigate yesterday's crash of a Bell 206L4 helicopter into the Hudson River near Jersey City, New Jersey. The helicopter departed the downtown Manhattan Wall Street heliport in New York at about 14:50 for an air tour flight. The helicopter is owned by Meridian Helicopters LLC, which is based in Broussard, Louisiana, and operated by New York Helicopter Charter, Inc. Before I go on, I want to extend on behalf of the entire NTSB our deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones in this tragic event. I also want to start by thanking the first responders. This was a tremendous, tremendous effort. And I want to thank specifically, first and foremost, the mayor for allowing us to be here in City Hall and do this press conference, and for all the support that you've given us and the team. I also want to thank the Jersey City Office of Emergency Management, the Jersey City Police Department, Jersey City Fire, Jersey City EMS, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police Department, the New Jersey Park Police, the New Jersey Transit Police Department, Hudson County Office of Emergency Management, the NYPD Special Operations, FDNY Special Operations, New York City Office of Emergency Management, the United States Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so many others that we will continue to mention in our follow-up press briefings. Now, I want to set expectations for this press conference. This crash occurred yesterday at about 3:15 p.m., so we're not even 24 hours later. Rightfully, the focus yesterday was on, first and foremost, victim recovery, and then wreckage recovery. Our investigators, the NTSB, we stay out of the way when victim recovery efforts are in process. That is first and foremost, most important. Our investigation can always wait. Once that was done, we had Luke Chiata, who is our chief of our Eastern region, who lives right here in New York, on scene as part of the wreckage recovery operations. And those two were the focus for yesterday. The rest of the team began to arrive late last night, including me, and early this morning. So that means this is the first full day of our investigation, And as you can see, our investigators are out doing some of the work that I'm about to talk about in just a second. But as far as information sharing today, I am not going to share a lot of investigative information. We have a lot of information, but we do not speculate. We need to confirm information. That is a process that takes time. So I will say, you know, I understand that you have a lot of questions, and we will attempt to answer them over the coming days. A little bit about our team and our process. We have 17 people who are here on scene. That includes 10 investigators. They are supported by a minimum of 10 experts back in our headquarters in Washington, D.C. The on-scene specialists, they are experts, and they have the following specialties. Operations, they'll focus on the helicopter operator. They'll look at the owner of the helicopter itself, and they will look at pilot qualifications and other information. We have experts on helicopter airworthiness, on structures, and on systems. We also have our evidence management team here, as well as our transportation disaster assistance team, which is responsible for working with the family to get them the assistance they need throughout the course of the investigation, not just here on scene, but in the coming days, weeks, and months throughout the investigation to the issuance of our final report, and sometimes for months and years beyond. The wreckage exam began this morning. Our team, I was there, our team began pulling components and the engine off the wreckage and other components that they would like to more closely examine. Most of their focus was to turn it upright and move the helicopter or the wreckage inside so that they can begin to do a more comprehensive examination and get to the other side of the wreckage that was against the pavement. We also are aware that there are dive teams. The New York Police Department is still diving for components and pieces of the helicopter that we are still looking to recover. Those include the main rotor, the main transmission, the roof structure, and the tail structure, and we appreciate all of their hard work. And then we have a whole team that is collecting the standard information that we normally gather as part of any investigation, which includes pilot qualifications, logbooks, history of the helicopter, maintenance logs, and so forth. We do have the logbooks for the pilot. The pilot held a commercial pilot certificate with rotorcraft and instrument ratings. The pilot reported 450 hours of total flight experience on his most recent medical, which was issued on September 20th, 2024. As of March 29th, 2025, the pilot accumulated about 788 hours of total flight time. We still need to calculate flight time in that Bell helicopter, and I'll have more information on that hopefully tomorrow, because he previously was flying a Robinson 44. Now, what we are hoping is that we are able to get the public to send us any photos or video you may have, or if you want to contact us because you believe that you have information that could be pertinent to our investigation, please reach out to us, provide that information to us. We will get in contact with you at the following email address: witness@ntsb.gov. That's witness@ntsb.gov. Now, I will take some questions. Again, a reminder, I know there will be questions for very detailed investigative information. I am happy to talk about the team, their qualifications, the process. I am not going to speculate on investigative information. We are very factual, and we will provide that in due course. So I will call on you. Please state your name, your affiliation for me.
It's Matthew Chase of Newsday. To the extent you're able to share this, is there a preliminary cause? I realize you gave that early talk, but is there a cause preliminarily that you can share with us?
The question is there a preliminary cause? We do not have a preliminary cause. That takes time. As I stated, our team focused on helicopter airworthiness and structures and systems is at the facility with the wreckage, doing the wreckage exam. That takes time. Of course, it takes time to also gather information, records that we need to comb through, so we do not have that at this time. And just to mention, as regarding cause, we will not speculate on cause ever, but we will not be determining any sort of preliminary or probable cause at the scene of an accident. We don't do that. What we are doing here is gathering the perishable evidence, the evidence that we need to gather for our investigation. When it comes to maintenance logbooks and other materials, we can look at those materials later on. What we need to do is look at the wreckage now. We need to focus on finding some of the additional components and structures that we're looking for, conduct witness interviews, and gather the records that we need. We can review the records later, so that probable cause will not occur for quite some time. Yes, ma'am, and then we'll go here. So the question was what we were doing with the engine. Nothing that we would not normally do as part of our standard investigation, where we would have wreckage and we'd start separating some of the components that we always look at. That's standard in our investigation. Of course, we'll have a team that always looks at engines or power plants to evaluate them as in standard course of our investigation. So nothing in particular. It was in the wreckage, and so we separated it from the helicopter so we could take a closer look at it in a more upright position. Yes, sir. The question is, what will us looking at as part of this investigation on scene tell us about cause, and what will we be looking at related to the safety history as part for this particular helicopter company? First of all, we always look at safety history. That's a standard part of all of our investigations, so we'll collect that. Not just from the Federal Aviation Administration, that is a party to every single one of our investigations, but we'll also ask those questions in interviews and get other information that will help us get a very broad view and detailed information about the safety history of this particular operator and also the owner of the helicopter itself. With respect to what will it tell us on scene about our investigation, the evidence right now, everything is on the table. We don't rule anything out. We take a very detailed and comprehensive view, and it's way too early in the investigation. It will be too early on scene. That's much later in the investigation. Yes, ma'am. The question is, what have we been able to glean from the videos that are already circulating on social media? Those are very helpful for our investigators, certainly, but A lot of those videos are from a very far distance, and so we'll have to look at those a little bit further back at headquarters, but we're hoping to get some additional videos that provide us information. We don't know what people have recorded or taken pictures of that could be helpful in an investigation. We have found in past investigations, and I'm just thinking of one that I went to in Ketchikan, Alaska, a mid-air collision where photos from somebody who was on board one of the airplanes helped us significantly in our investigation. So it can be very key parts of our investigation. So for anyone who didn't hear my previous request, please send us any sort of videos or photos or information you'd like to share with us at witness@ntsb.gov. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, do we have any sort of concerns or have we issued any sort of safety recommendations in the past about these type of air tour operations? We have. Actually, we did. So this particular operator was governed under Part 135 of the Federal Aviation Regulations, but this particular operation was under Part 91. All air tours are. We have issued an entire report on Part 91 operations with respect to revenue passengers. We believe in one level of safety strongly, and that may not look like regulation for a major commercial airline, but we do believe that they should be regulated. We have issued recommendations in the past on recorders, crash-resistant recorders. We've issued numerous recommendations on safety management systems, on particular regulations for Part 91. It's too early to say what we would recommend as part of this investigation. However, this is a concern that we've raised for a number of years. Certainly we raised this after the Fly Nyan crash, and in a specific report that we have online at ntsb.gov focused on Part 91 revenue passenger operations. And so I would direct you actually to that report. It was very comprehensive about our recommendations, specifically about air tour operators. And if you can't find that, our media relations team can help provide that information, because we did issue a set of recommendations to improve safety in this area. That will be part of the question is, was this operator complying with those recommendations? Those are recommendations, not regulations, but we would have to look at that, and that will be standard in this investigation. So thank you very much, sir. And then I'm going to go over here. Have we recovered the rotor? We are looking for the main rotor and the tail rotor right now.
Get them the heck out of here and let them fly down the Hudson River. I'm telling you right now, if something isn't done, there's going to be a disaster where they're going to crash into one of these buildings or crash into the neighborhoods up there. They're annoying, and they're bothering. People have been asking and asking and asking, and nothing has been done.
Thank you. There was a comment about, thank you, sir. There was a comment about the concern about these helicopter operations, and thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate it. Yes.
I want to let you know, as we continue to monitor this NTSB update on the deadly helicopter crash, if you're watching in Tampa, we're going to wrap up and you will have your regular program at 3. If you're watching in Orlando, if you're watching on YouTube, we're going to keep taking this NTSB stream. Thanks for joining us on Florida Live.
The question is, what would result? How did this essentially how did this tragedy happen, where a helicopter would break apart in the air? I understand that is a significant concern and a question on everyone's mind. It is going to take time. We need to do a very thorough examination of the wreckage to determine what occurred first and how that occurred. Once we have that, we'll be able to release that to the public.
More questions?
Yes. Sure. Yeah, great question, because I think sometimes people are reluctant to really reach out to us because they may not think something is relevant to our investigation. So the question was on reports of a large flock of birds in the area shortly before the crash. We are aware of those reports. We discussed it this morning. It's something we will be looking into. What I will say to the public, if something struck you as different, or maybe you paused, or it crossed your mind that maybe it's something you would like to share with our investigators, there's no downside, please, in sharing that information with us. You can be very helpful in providing that investigative information to the NTSB. So again, witness@ntsb.gov. Even if you think it's irrelevant, please send it in. Yes, sir.
Hi, Stephen Nesson, WNYC Radio. You said there are 17 people on site here working on the investigation and 10 in D.C. Is that how many people you would typically have for a helicopter crash investigation? Is that the same number, for example, during the Flynon helicopter crash, or have cuts of the federal government reduced your number of investigators?
So the question is, the 17 investigators here and 10 who are supporting back home, but the 17 personnel here, 10 of which are investigators, is that typical for an investigation like this? How would it compare to Fly-Nyon, and would it be less as a result of any sort of cuts to the agency? First of all, let me address the agency. We have not experienced any personnel losses other than typical retirements in our agency. Our agency has been provided with, by the administration, thank you, an exemption from the deferred resignation program. We got a hiring exemption for several investigative positions within each of our transportation modes, so we can bring our numbers up to help us in our investigation, and that is critical. So we have not suffered in any way. With respect to comparison on Fly-Nyon, I don't know how many investigators were here on Fly-Nyon. Certainly our media team can provide that to you. It really isn't, what I will say for our investigations is when an accident occurs, we look at what might be areas we want to look into. How many people can we send based on the rest of our workload? And because we have a pretty heavy workload right now, and that is the decision making that goes into what expertise do we need and who do we want to send. That is what feeds into that, so it might vary depending on the investigation. Okay, that is the end of questions today. What I will ask is that you monitor X, which is NTSB_newsroom, and also NTSB.gov, which is our website, which will have updates on future press conferences. Thank you so much for your time.
That was the NTSB chair giving an update on this investigation, which is just getting underway. We do expect now to hear from the mayor of...
If there's any questions to our emergency management or director of the police, we could answer those as well. If not, we'll close it out and say thank you for coming.
Was there a black box
All right, let's continue to listen in.
Want to speak to that, Greg? Black box question.
At this point, we have been advised that it was recovered. That's part of the dive operations that's currently on the way. They are.
Is a black box?
I don't know, but if there is, that's part of the dive operations. It's currently on the way. The NYPD scuba.
Louder.
Yeah, the NYPD scuba team, as indicated by the chair, has been assisting us since the last evening. They're doing a comprehensive search of the crash area. If in fact that item is recovered, that'll be turned over as part of the evidence.
You don't know
I don't know if this, right.
But is it possible that this model does not have a black box?
I have no idea. That would have to be directed to him. Yes, Pat? The area in question is it's about 5 feet deep where the chopper went down. It's a very rocky substance on the bottom there. So there was challenges for the scuba people to get in there. Even to this day, we were doing recovery on the pier line and the shoreline where getting a boat in that close was tough. So it was a lot of the stuff our emergency service people, people from my office were out there physically walking the shoreline recovering items.
You said 5 feet deep?
5 feet deep, roughly. Yes.
I believe they said it was an hour and a half from now until he arrives. Is that what they said?
Yes. All the
he was flying in this morning, and then they said an hour and a half from.
He'll be arriving about.
Yeah, in about an hour from now, he'll be arriving.
So, question for the gentleman from emergency management: how big is the debris field? Yesterday, we saw boats spread out quite far. There was some debris found, as far north as Hoboken Terminal. How large of an area are your divers, NYPD divers, having a search?
Well, that's the discretion of the Coast Guard. Obviously, they've been establishing where the dives are currently operating. The one location that they're looking at, they've discovered some information based on sonar and things like that. It's approximately 75 feet deep, so it's a pretty wide area right now. Primarily, we're in the area of the crash site and then working outward. But as the dive teams discover items that doesn't appear normal, they're marking them, and then based on the currents and things like that, they'll be back to continue their dives in that area. Approximately 5 feet deep. Yeah, that's the area that's the water's approximately 75 deep, 75 foot. They have found some items on the floor based on sonar and things like that that are not normal appearances, and that's why they're continuing to mark that. Hudson River is a very, very tough place to dive. So we're dealing with the expertise of the NYPD, and they're going to make sure it's done safely, and we're going to recover what's down there. It may take some time, but they're going to stay there until they have to get what they have to get. Excuse me?
Visibility in the water.
Very, very murky. I mean, I was there last night when they were physically removing the victims. You literally can't see a hand in front of you, but they did a phenomenal job.
Okay.
Forgive this ignorant question, but 75 feet deep from where?
From the shoreline.
Greg Kears.
Greg Kears, K-I-E-R-C-E.
And that's not a radius, that's
straight out.
Straight out.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah.
Mayor, can you specify as best as possible whatever location on the Jersey City side the crash occurred closest to?
You want to answer that, Craig, as well? You must stay with that as well.
If you're familiar with the Port Authority vents down at down by foot of 6th Street, roughly, it's adjacent right to the Port Authority vent. It's adjacent right to the Port Authority pier where it houses the vents for the Howland Tunnel. Yes. I'm sorry?
They told us, I touched on the fact that they were here for a birthday trip for the mom. Her birthday is actually, I understand, in June, but it was a trip that they were doing now. It was one of the child's birthdays today. He was here for a business trip, arriving on Sunday, touring some Siemens entities in Pittsburgh, is what they told us. And then they extended the trip with the family arriving a couple days ago for the birthday portion of the trip.
Birthday today or yesterday?
They said his birthday, or one of the child's birthday, was today, is what they said. Yeah. Excuse me? I don't know. Yeah?
Just a quick question about the birds. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the birds in this area. Is it a typical problem that there are birds that could possibly, interact with
There were three working theories. There was the birds discussion, there was drone discussion, and mechanical failure discussion. And we'll see where it goes. And again, I don't want to hypothesize, but I think as time goes on, we'll leave it at that.
What are your thoughts on the regulation issue?
I think that you need more regulation there, and we need the FAA to restrict the tourism on the helicopters. It's a very crowded space, and those of you that aren't familiar with it, you only could go so high because you can't interfere with Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK on the commercial airlines. So you have all of the news outlets, you have the transportation, you have the tourism, all in a very, very tight space that can't go above a certain elevation. So it is very congested, and it's a very, very congested space on the ground. So it's dangerous, and as he said, had it been 50 feet more towards the shoreline, it would have landed on a walkway that is highly trafficked and not far from a playground over there close to Newport, and it's another 100 feet. It could have been in the middle of Newport Parkway. So it's a very dangerous situation. Yeah, I think that you need to be practical about it. Post 9/11, there was restrictions, and it seemed like it worked okay. And then over time, we've brought back those restrictions and more traffic. That helicopter did multiple tours that day already. They are very busy operators, and that probably is going to lead to questions around maintenance and all of those sort of things. And by the time it's resolved, the world will stop watching this, unfortunately, because it takes the NTSB a lot of time to get to a resolution. But there's going to be a lot of questions on how those tourist operators work, and I think there's reason to be concerned over it. Yeah. They told us he's been in contact. The mother's in Utah, and he's a veteran and African-American male, 36 years old? Yes, 36 years old. Yeah. Do you have the exact ages? Kim, when we're done, Kim will give you the exact ages. Kim will come up at the end and give you the exact ages. She'll give you that information. She'll give you that. Anything else before we wrap it up? Yes. No. I mean, look, you have these operators saying a lot of different things. I think a reasonable person would come to the conclusion that if you're a pilot and you're going on a trip, you would recognize whether you have fuel or you don't have fuel in that. That helicopter was used on multiple trips earlier in that day. So I would likely rule that out. I'm going to go with the hypothesis that that's probably not going to end up being the outcome on this.
Have you worked with the family in Spain?
We spoke today to the executives. I did to the executives at Siemens, and they flew out last night. And the one that flew out actually has a close family relationship with the deceased. They would vacation together. So there's familiarity there. He was facilitating conversations with the consulate in order to facilitate the release of the bodies to bring them back to Spain. And then, as we said earlier, family members should be arriving in an hour or so.
You said the brother-in-law.
Kim will give you the pilot's name and the ages.
Brother-in-law, you said?
Yeah, I believe it was the wife's brother. Yeah.
Another question for your emergency manager, folks.
Greg.
Items that the diver was looking for. Does that aircraft have a black box there? Are you looking for that?
Whatever items, as I say, I'm not familiar with whether there's a black box or not on that type of an aircraft. What they are looking for now in particular was the transmission, the rotors, and other associated items associated with the actual engine and things like that. When the chopper was taken up, it was very, very seriously damaged. So as the NTSB chair had said, it was delivered to the Army Corps of Engineers via boat. And this morning they were over there first thing doing their first portion of the investigation. But as I mentioned, there were some items that were found on the sonar that is a matter of interest. So they are continuing to do their dives. Weather permitting, of course, you know, it's a tough, very choppy out there today, but they're the best at what they do.
Thank you.
Officials wrapping up a news conference in Jersey City, New Jersey, giving the latest on what we know about the crash into the Hudson River, the deadly helicopter crash. 6 people dead. We heard from the NTSB talking about wreckage examinations still going on earlier today. They are asking for folks in that area who may have seen something, maybe have some photos, some videos, or maybe noticed something odd going on at the time. We heard them mention potentially a large flock of birds in the area. We know investigators still looking for the main rotor and the tail rotor. Not many new details out today, mainly walking us through the process of what that investigation is going to look like. We also heard from the mayor of Jersey City, New Jersey, talking about potentially 3 different kind of hypotheses for what may have happened. One being the birds, as you heard, one being drone in the area, and the third being mechanical failure. So we will see as this investigation goes on what the cause ends up being. You also heard the Jersey City mayor talking about concerns with that being a crowded airspace there and potentially wanting more regulation on those sightseeing tours in that area because of the close call it had with a highly trafficked walkway with some businesses or some buildings rather nearby as well. So it could have ended up being a much worse tragedy than it is already. So still a lot of questions about this, something we'll continue to monitor, but that being the update this afternoon from the NTSB and other officials investigating this crash in New York and in New Jersey, the Hudson River there. We appreciate you joining us here for our extended coverage of On Florida Live this afternoon. I leave you with this live view of the Hudson River as we know the operations from the dive teams there, as we heard, continue to try to recover more of that debris from the bottom of the Hudson River. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be back here at 4 with another live hour of Fox 35 News Plus, live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube.